All right, everybody, welcome to another episode here of The Path of Life. Today is review day. I don't care if you like reviews or not. Today is review day, so suck it up, Buttercup, and let's get right into it. What are we reviewing today? The GVM, aka Great Video Maker, 31-inch aluminum slider. Whoa. So in this video, we are going to go through what is found inside of this case, and then go through some of this product's features. We're going to talk about the build quality. We are going to test out the product. We're just going to try a few different things. I'm really excited about this product. GVM, Great Video Maker. I don't have any experience with any of their products yet. I'm looking forward to gaining an opinion on this company and their product here. So let's dive right in. So you get some little informational packets about your stuff. Okay, so first let's go through what is in these little pockets here. So you have your battery charger for your NPF style battery. You have an NPF style battery, Sony NPF. I actually have a few of these batteries already, which is nice. Same battery that my LED lights use, and these little chargers, they work. I actually just keep one of these in my camera bag all the time, so that when I travel, if I forget to bring my nice double NPF charger, then I have an NPF charger. That's cool. You have all kinds of trigger wires for many different types of camera connections. You even have a extension here for that, so it's kind of cool. You have the connector cable to connect between the brain and the slider, and then you have the brain, the remote, the controller. Battery mounts onto the brain of the unit like that. You have a little power switch right here to turn the unit on and off. And then you have a couple of different connectors here. You have a USB out, which is for your connector cable to the slider. And then you have a DC in for a DC 12 volt connection, so that you can plug straight into the wall. And then you have your shutter release cable connection. And then you have this little Velcro thingamajig. From what I've heard, there are some people that give this remote gripes, give this brain gripes, but honestly, for the price, what are you gonna do? Now, on to the main event. So you got this little protective cover here, and we got the slider itself. So check that guy out. Nice. So let's get this case out of the way here. It's a decent case, by the way. Nothing super fancy, or not a hard case at all or whatever, but it's a decent case. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how this thing is put together. So you have a 31-inch bed here with two rails for the slider to run on. You have a lockdown knob here so that you can cinch down this thing. I mean, it locks it down really good. You have here on the top, you have a little bubble level. You have a 1/4-20 nipple here, which is really nice if you wanted to just mount your camera straight to this guy. But then you have a 3/8 adapter for if you wanted to mount a 3/8 ball head on here. You'll notice here that this thing just floats back and forth when this is not locked down, and when this is not powered on. Now I'll turn the power on the brain system here, and now you'll see this thing does not want to move at all. It won't move. Turn the power off, floats again. You know, if you just wanted to check your shots and see what it looked like and everything, you can just do that manually, and then bring it here, flip on your power, and boom, it's locked down. before we get into the brain and how that thing works, talk about the rest of the mechanical features here. First, your legs are extendable. All 4 legs are extendable. You can almost push them out probably about 2 inches or so. So all kinds of different adjustability if you're setting this thing up on uneven ground or rocks or whatever. Now that takes us to between these 2 rails, we have a little guide rail here that floats along the bottom of the bed that has 2 lockdown screws on either side here. If it is in the middle position, like this, floating in the middle, then you'll see that the camera head stays perfectly straight, perpendicular to the slide. But if we move this one away from us and this one towards us, then that changes up what this slider does. Now it is doing a follow shot. So you can see that it's angled in right here, and that the angle of the slider, or the angle of the camera, the orientation of the camera changes as it goes across. Now you can make that as drastic or as gentle as you would like, just by changing how much you move and angle this. So if your subject is really far away and you're zoomed in on it, you're not going to want it doing a lot of panning. But if your subject is extremely close and you want it to follow that subject, I mean, with it all the way, you know, it's pointing like right here, you know, like 6 inches away from the slider. Now if we pull this one towards us and this one away from us, go the opposite, now it is going to do a panoramic shot. Okay, so you see now it's angled away and it's going to track across and change angle across all the way to here. So again, having the power off to the unit gives you the ability to really quickly see what your range of motion looks like. And then on the opposite side of the unit here, you have a pre-installed belt with teeth on it. And how this operates is it goes over a pulley here and goes up into the drive unit and comes back down around another pulley. So it comes like this from both sides, goes around the pulleys and up and over, and the teeth grab in. So it actually has a fair bit of torque on the belt. So my hope is with that we can get some really good vertical tracking shots with a decent weight on the system. See what we can do with the power on for the first time. So what we are going to do first is go to our settings, and we are going to set the start and set the end. You can set your speed that you want this to travel at, and I'm just going to keep it at 100 right now. And then you select the direction that you want it to travel to go to your start point. So we're going to go ahead and go to the left, and you're going to want to stop it before you get to the end by hitting the center button. If you don't stop it before you get to the end, then you're going to bind the gears, and then every time it goes over there, you're going to be slamming it into the end. So we left about a ½ inch there, and then we are going to hit set start. So we basically just hit the center button again, and then you press and hold the middle button to go back. Because on here you just have the 4 buttons. You have up, right, down, left, and middle is select. And if you hold it for about a 1.5 seconds, then it takes you back. So now we are going to set the end, or our B point, which is going to be on the right. So again, speed we'll keep at 100. You can get more precise if you go slower, but I'm just going to keep it at 100. And then we are going to hit the right button because we want it to travel to the right. And you can see the step counter going up as you go. Okay, so then we stopped it there. So now you can see we just left a little gap on that side. We hit set end, which is already highlighted, and then press and hold, and we go back. Some of the other options in this settings menu is to set the language and to reset the system. So we're gonna press and hold and go back. So now you have two other options other than the setting menu on this first screen. You have video shot and you have time lapse. So first we're gonna do video shot, okay? And I am going to just put my little point and shoot camera on here. Once we start really getting into it and wanting to really make these shots count, then we'll put the other cameras on. We'll go outside and we'll make it happen. All right, and now let's go ahead and switch over to this camera here, and we are going to go into video shot. You have two options in video shot. You have manual mode and you have auto mode. So let's start in manual mode. It says direction is paused, speed is 100. If we hit the right button from right here, it will not go because it knows we are at the end point. We are at our B point. So I'm gonna hit the left button, and because it's in manual mode, I have to press and hold this button here. So if I just press it, it's going to just step ever so slightly. Now, press and hold, it will slowly ramp up the speed until it gets to full speed. This is 100% right here. And then when it hits our A point, it is going to abruptly stop. But now, let's go back one menu. We'll go to video shot. And then instead of manual mode, we will press the down arrow and select auto mode. Now it says auto loop or auto stop. First, let's do the auto stop. It says 100%, that's our speed. So I'm gonna hit the left button one time and it will take the camera all the way across the slider. And it slows it down at the end and ramps it down. So let's take it back to the B point. And it'll slowly ramp down and stop. Now, let's go video shot, auto mode, auto loop. Now when I hit the left button, it will go from B to A. As it gets close to the end here, it will ramp down, it'll turn around, ramp back up and go. So it's really cool. Even if you were using this to film an interview, then you wouldn't be getting a jostled shot when it gets to the end and turns back around and comes back. If you're using this for B-roll in an interview, then you have your subject here talking. And if you wanted to use a clip right now, you could, because it doesn't jostle like some other sliders do. And it'll just keep doing this until the battery runs out. So now let's look at what some different speeds are like. Even while it's moving, I can change the speed here on the system. I can just press the down button and it will change the speed. I can press and hold and it will go all the way down to 1%. That's what 1% speed looks like. It's pretty slow. It's relatively quiet. So there at 1%, it's slow enough that if you wanted to do a video and then speed up the video and make a time lapse, you could do a motion time lapse that way. So in my opinion, having the ability to select each individual percent might be a bit overkill. Maybe having 20 selections and going from 100% to 95 to 90, 85, and whatnot down to the 1% or the 5% or whatever. That might have been a little bit easier of an interface, but ultimately I'm not going to complain about that. It's pretty good and it gives me a lot of options. So yeah, it will keep doing this forever and ever and ever, as long as my battery stays alive. Now, let's change our angles a little bit. Okay, so we're going to bring it to the center. We're going to push the middle button and it'll slowly ramp down and stop. Now I am going to put this in panorama mode. So now you'll be able to see how much actual movement side to side you get. So that's a pretty big deal. You got a lot of movement in there. Now let's set us up for as much of a follow shot as we can get. As intense of a follow shot as we can get. And we'll see what that looks like. Because it's moving so much, it almost looks like a panorama shot until you get something here in the foreground. Okay, and then the last options that we have here are for time lapse. We have a few different options here. We have interval, we have time lapse, we have stop time, and we have photos. And then we have auto loop. So we have the options here to hit the right button or the left button to change the values, and the up and down button to change which option. We hit the center button and then it goes into the time lapse screen here. We have the speed, we have the direction. So now I'm going to have to take this unit out to really figure out exactly what these things mean. But the interval, I believe, is how long the system is sliding. And then based upon your speed and your interval time, that will dictate how much space along the slider it actually moves. Because if we put it at 1 as the interval and the speed is 0, then it's moving almost a 1/4 inch. But if we put our interval at 0.1 and our speed at 1%, we are only moving for 1/10 of a second, and we're moving, you know, at micrometers. I mean, we're moving extremely slowly across this slider. And then your time lapse, I believe, is how long it waits after it moves to take the picture. So it gives your camera enough time to steady out and stabilize before it takes the shot. And then the stop time is naturally set at 3 seconds. And so that's how long it's actually stopped for. So your interval is how long it's moving for. Your time lapse is how long it waits to ignite the shutter. And then your stop time is the total from the end of the first movement to the beginning of the next movement. So you need to make sure that your time lapse plus your shutter speed are fitting within your stop time. Otherwise, you'll be shooting through movement. So if you're shooting a night lapse and you have a 5-second shutter release, your shutter is open for 5 seconds because you're shooting stars or something like that. If you have a 5-second shutter release on a 3-second stop time, then you're only going to be getting your shutter ignited every other time because it's only waiting 3 seconds in between each, but you'll have movement during every exposure. So you got to be careful with that. And then you have your photo count. Auto loop, it's just will it return once it gets to the end. Hey Coyote, how's it going? How are you? This is called a camera slider. Isn't it cool? Our Savannah cat, Coyote, one of them. The other is still in quarantine. That being said, let's go outside and test this a little bit more thoroughly with the camera on the system. Okay, so we're just out here in the backyard and I have my Lumix G7 set up on here now. We're just going to do a little lapse looking up into the trees with the sun behind. And one thing to note, every time you turn this thing off and back on again, you need to set your start and your end. Okay? So if you don't, then it will run into the end. We're going to do a video shot in auto mode, auto loop at 100%. Start moving to the left. Okay, now we're doing a little bit of a track shot here. So you can see that the camera, and try and move along with it. The camera is doing a little bit of a pan. And now we're going to do an opposite. This is a panoramic shot. And then I'm going to come over here and be the subject of the shot now. So once it comes all the way over here, it'll start following me. So there we go. Not too shabby. All right, so that's just a couple of video shots. Okay, and now we're doing a little bit of vertical shot from top to bottom here. So that's pretty cool. We can even, if we want to, add a little bit of rotational movement into that. As it goes up right now, it makes it appear like the camera is getting much higher than it actually is. Okay, now let's go the opposite way. Okay. A little bit of extra motion in there. Okay, so I've broken out my stands here, and I'm setting up for a time lapse here under this tree. So let's see if you can see what this is ultimately going to look like as it travels. So it follows the tree there. I don't know if it's going to be very dynamic or interesting, but I kind of like the thought of it, so we're going to try it. So we're going to do interval at 0.1, time lapse at 1.0, stop time at 3. We will not loop, but photos 1,000, I don't really care. It's going to stop when it gets to the end anyway. Now we'll hook up our trigger wire and we'll make that work. Okay, now I don't know how much you can see of that, but we're in manual mode. We've got our manual focus is set. Everything is full manual on the camera here. Intervalometer cable's all plugged in, so we've got everything set here, down to 5%, and we'll go for it. It's working. For some reason, it would not work with the extension cable. I don't know why that is, but we'll toy around with it and see if we can't figure that out. You can notice, if you pay attention, especially to this this belt, after it moves, it jolts the whole system a little bit. So having a 1 second delay on there is a pretty good idea. The faster it goes, the more violent the movement becomes, or the aftermath. And just like that, it's at the end. So there it is. It's hard to see because it's backlit, so let's move this guy. So over the entire span, we took 319 photos. So we're doing a test shot here. Got it all set up on the roof, and we're doing panorama. Changed a couple settings. It now is moving twice as long and a bit slower, but it's still moving quite a bit faster across the lapse right now, or across the slider right now. So we'll see. I'll probably end up slowing down the speed even more. I just didn't want it jostling the whole system, and it's definitely not moving it as much now. Here's the little Kion monster. Hey, bud. He's enjoying some outside time with his brother, who's over here, filthy as usual. Been rolling around in the dirt, have ya? So came to good old downtown Cedar, that's all lit up in Christmas fashion right now, to get a couple more shots. So we'll see what we can do here, huh? Some night lapse shots. Alright, so overall first impressions of the GVM slider here, the aluminum 32 inch. I really like it. There's some quirks in the menu. It's difficult to know what your time-lapse length will be without doing the math, but hey, that just takes you back a couple of years in intervalometer ease. All things considered, this thing's great, and for the price, I don't think you can beat it. It has a lot of features, jam-packed full of features. For a little bit more, you can get the carbon fiber version, which gets rid of a couple of the problems that people were saying with this. But all in all, I like this thing. It's robust, it's sturdy, it ain't doing anything, twisting around or anything like that. I lifted it up onto the top of the chicken coop and had no problems with that. The intervalometer was reliable, worked well, and all in all, shoots smooth, it's quiet, and relatively easy to operate and understand. So I definitely recommend it. It's a good product. I like it. So thanks a lot for tagging along on this video. Hopefully you found it informative and enjoyable. If you did, give it that thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. Till next time, take care of yourselves, everybody, and make it a great day. Peace out. So pretty, so Christmas. Oh my gosh. If only your window was clean enough to see it all. It's the 21st and there's no snow on the ground. Come on, Cedar. Come on. It all melted off. But it is supposed to snow Christmas Day. So that's cool.